What's up, turds, nerds, freaks, and geeks, and all that's in between? It's me, your girl, Daisy Dame, and welcome back to my channel. I'm genuinely blessed to have you here. Today, we are going back to Marina Abramović. Many of you may already know about this famous performance artist, but we're going to go deeper into this whole thing because there's a lot surrounding Marina. One thing is for sure, she's known for pushing the limits. One time she had a performance where people could do whatever it was that they wanted. When the performance started, it was relatively harmless. It was as though she was attempting to show the fragility of the human body. There were instructions that read, "There are 72 objects on the table. You can use whatever one is desired. Performance. I am the object. During this period, I take full responsibility." And the 72 objects laid out for the performance included this: a bolet, blue paint, a comb, a bell, whip, lipstick, pocket knife, fork, perfume, spoon, cotton, flowers, matches, rose, candle, mirror, drinking glass, Polaroid camera, feather, chains, nails, needles, safety pins, hairpins, brush, bandage, red paint, white paint, scissors, pen, book, sheet of paper, kitchen knife, and more. The accounts of exactly what happened during that performance were varied. For example, how it started and ended vary. While some say it was announced by the gallery director that the artist would remain passive for the next 6 hours, others did report that the instructions were given only in the form of text on a wall. It was not clear whether the performance ended because the predetermined 6 hours were over or because part of the audience had to put a stop to it, which is quite curious if you ask me. Knowing Marina and her previous performances, it wouldn't surprise me that it was simply written on the wall, and that was that, as this has happened in previous art pieces done by Marina. For those of you who knew anything about Marina, to start with, you'll know that she started to be known as the P witch, I guess, if you will. One of the most detailed descriptions of the course of events of that night was provided by an art critic, Thomas McEvilly. How about that, y'all? Evilly. He was present during the piece, and he wrote that the performance began tamely, and someone turned her around. Another person had thrust her arm into the air. Someone else touched her somewhat intimately. While it's debatable if intimate touching can be considered tame, the events of the evening quickly took a turn for the worse. Mr. Evilly wrote that Abramović's clothes were cut off after 3 hours. Someone used the knife to cut her neck and drink her blues. She was essentially naughtily assaulted during the performance, carried around the room, set on a table. Mr. Evilly says when a loaded gun was thrust to Marina's head and her own finger was being worked around the trigger, a fight broke out between the audience factions. And even though every audience member did not partake in these acts, someone wiped away her tears, and some people even tried to intervene. Rhythm O is still an example of a performance piece that violently escalated due to the participation of viewers. According to Marina herself, the audience fled the scene after the performance was over. People apparently were afraid to confront her and immediately left the exhibit space when she ended her passive state and walked towards the public after 6 hours had passed, while Abramović silently endured the actions of the audience during Rhythm O. She talked about her experience after the performance. She states, "The experience I drew from this piece was that in your own performances you can go very far, but if you leave the decisions to the public, you can essentially be deleted." Clearly what happened to Marina in this case is not appropriate, but we can argue the fact that Marina herself let these objects sit there for others to partake and do what they will with, as well as taking responsibility. What do you think about the public's actions? Do you find them appropriate? Let's go further into this. An article states, every morning, Marina gets out of bed and puts on a pair of slippers. One reads, F The other reads negativity. That is how the morning starts to put a smile on your face, she says. Then she'll make breakfast to tango music. Sometimes she will retreat to a hut in the woods by her house in upstate New York for 6 days with no food, to contemplate a giant crystal that she keeps there and to connect with the memory of the planet. This delicious glimpse into the life of the world's most famous performance artist comes from a new documentary from BBC, of course. I think it's important to demystify the idea of this glamorous life. It's just down to earth, she tells me, completely seriously, of the film. Even though the house is built in the shape of a star, it is filled with amazing furniture and art. The grounds are vast enough to hold an aircraft hangar shed containing her archive. It's all fabulous, as is Abramović, who is funny, warm, and yet somehow otherworldly. She goes in for shamanism, crystals, clairvoyancy, and more. I can see that there are down-to-earth elements when we speak via Zoom. For example, she's drinking a mug of Yorkshire gold tea, discovered from a Welsh friend. I'm quite taken by her woodland hut, overlooking a river, which has no electricity or a bathroom. One giant crystal, a chair and a bed. How often does she go there and consider again she is located in this time at upstate New York? Very curious. And then I got Lyme disease and I don't go out for a while, she smiles. But I overcame the fears of ticks. Overcoming is a theme for them, apparently. From her earliest works, she explored physical and emotional endurance, confronting fears and exposing vulnerabilities. In her piece, Rhythm 10, in 1973, she stabbed a na at the speed between the spaces of her spread-out fingers. The following year, in Rhythm O, she laid in the gallery in Naples alongside a table of 72 objects, including chains, whips, pistols, so on and so forth, as we discussed, and people were allowed to do whatever. There was a time where she laid in the center of a burning 5-point star, and she ended up losing consciousness. And in 2 weeks, she spent living on show in 3 elevated boxes in a New York gallery in 2002. In 1997, she won a Golden Lion Prize for the Best Artist in a Venice Biennale. This event attracted nearly 100,000 visitors. She had been ridiculed, performance artists being an easy target. From her early work, dismissed as an exhibitionist and a masochist, but not these days. Now, somehow, people accuse her of selling out. She is an art world superstar with large exhibits, collaborations with celebrities like Lady Gaga, who privately held a workshop with the artist in which the singer didn't eat or speak for 4 days and found her ways out of the woods, blindfolded and bare. Y'all, blindfolded and bare. Lady Gaga, bringing her fame and wealth. I didn't make art for that, she says. I make art because I believe in art. That is quite curious, isn't it? And the interesting part is she's also close with who? Katy Perry, who then did what? Put herself on a stream for a few days, being watched by the public. Here's just very curious. Her strangeness brought across a strange group of online con theorists who are convinced that she is a cannibalistic Satanist, or because they believe that she is a member of the liberal elite, part of a global P-ring. It started when an email that Marina sent to her friend, Tony Podesta, and his brother, who was running for Hillary Clinton's campaign, was leaked. She was inviting John and a number of others who donated money to her institute to a spirit cooking dinner. It was supposed to be a joke, y'all, based on her work in which she scrawled love spells. I think that people obviously would have been concerned because this John P. dude is no good. Furthering on, she scrawled love spells on the wall of the galleries in P's booth. On that night, they did not, as the work suggested, consume fresh breast milk and fresh sperm, or to my knowledge, they state they didn't. She laughs wearily, and I bring this up. This is something that I had been deeply bothered by, she says. I'm an artist, not a Satanist. They Googled me, and I am perfection to fit a theory. The 5-pointed star in her work, either burning or cut into her flesh, not a pentagram, but symbols her communist childhood. The bluth and dooth, the dramatic clothes and long black hair. You can see why people might get overexcited. Or maybe it was the way she carried herself and the art performances that she gave that allowed the public to literally do as they please with her, and she would take full accountability. She can laugh at the bonkers nature of it, but she says it's all absolutely disturbing. I had to change my email. I had people saying they were going to come get me, that they were going to do things to me. It's unbelievable. One said, I will reveal your deepest secrets in 2 hours. I started laughing because I don't have any secrets. I hope they will leave me alone. It's horrible because it gives a shadow to the meaning of my work. Strange times indeed. Marina moved to the U.S. in early 2000s, but she doesn't know how long she will stay. Things are changing. I was just waiting to see what's going to happen in the election. It's pretty ugly right now, and it's not fun at all. Yeah, it's not. In March of this year, Frank U. Lesbian, known as Yule, her collaborator and lover in the 70s and 80s, had passed away. How has his passing affected her? She takes a sip of tea. Well, with Yule it's complicated, she said. We had this huge love story. Then we separated on the Great Wall of China. Then he made his Chinese translator Pragananat. She said she and Yule met in Amsterdam in 1975 and worked together for 12 years. Much of it was spent traveling around in the old police van, creating challenging, influential performance works, including one where, leaning back and perfectly balanced, he holds an arrow aimed at her heart while she held the bow. When they conceived their piece, the lovers, the original plan was to each start at the opposite ends of the Great Wall and get married at the middle. But by the time they got permission, by the Chinese authorities in 1988, 8 years later, they had already separated. After that, she says, I didn't see him for 7 years. Then we started talking again, and he offered me a chance to buy the rights over the work. She said, then we had a fight over this. Then they had a huge law case, which they lost everything, which is a slight exaggeration. The Dutch court ordered Yule to pay, but by this time, as a solo artist, she was hugely successful, bruised and angry. She states that she was really down. When she arrived, Yule and his wife were there already. They were there for 1 month, and I'm there for 1 month. What to do? To leave? What the F? She laughs. A month of daily 5 a.m. meditation. It's really easy to say that you forgive someone, but to really forgive with your whole heart is the hardest thing in the world. But truly, I forgave him in the deepest way. We made some incredible, important work. When it was wonderful, it was wonderful. When it was hell, it was hell. And she smiled, and thus they became friends. I find that very curious, and that is probably one of my favorite quotes of this whole ordeal. She goes on to say, I was touched. A few months he passed away. It was a peaceful conclusion to their relationship. She goes on to explain that the past few months had been a healing time. She had felt rather gluttony, found lockdown wonderful, Lyme disease she contracted, gave her low energy, but then again she got over these things. She goes out to say how she's had been really busy. She's auctioning the life and augmented reality piece made with her partner, Todd, a film producer, with an addition of 3 Abramović, will appear in virtual reality form to a headset-wearing collector. So to me, it sounds like she was trying to get her hands in augmented reality, VR, so on and so forth. I find that very curious as well. They go on to talk about the virus and how that affected things, how they had to push certain things back that they were working on, how her shows specifically need the audience and their interaction. And this is the one about the electricity. This one is the one that I have been waiting for. I'm so curious. So she states that she's going to have to push it back. She doesn't want the show to have to adapt due to what's going on in current times. It will be the first time a woman is given a solo show across Academy's main galleries in its 252-year history. It's very interesting. That's really curious, she jokes. Wow. As the first woman, I have to deliver something. Well, we're hoping you do. We're truly hoping you do. As for her art, it's not about pleasing herself, she clarifies. I don't do things I only like. I do things that are difficult. I'm curious. Freedom is the most important thing for me. To be free of any structure that I can't break. She looks at women who are stuck with husbands they don't love. They are not breaking structures. They are trapped. I really like not to be like that. A short while, she says, wait. She grabs a magnet from the fridge, and she states, I am going to read. And she puts on her black, framed, stylish glasses. And I do like this part. The question is not who is going to let me. It's who is going to stop me. I love this. And I also love that quote. Marina is truly something different. She's quite curious. She's one of a kind. But she's also getting back to work. And that is why we must revisit Marina Abramović. Please stay tuned for part 2. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell. I so appreciate that. Thank you so much to my members. You are the coal that makes this train roll, and I genuinely could not do it without any of you. Is Marina truly this horrific person who has such evil intentions? Let us find out together. See you soon. Bye, guys.